Hello and welcome to A Cup of Tea with Dr. Zee, where we share everyday stories with you, everyday women. Are you ready to hear heart-to-heart key issues that we all face, no matter where we are in the world? So grab your cup of tea and let's welcome your host, author, international speaker, reinvention strategist, and woman that's full of faith in God and mankind, Dr. Zena Arinzi.
Hello, and welcome. Welcome to A Cup of Tea with me, Dr. Z. We're starting a little bit later than normal. We typically start at 7 p.m. UK time, and it's just gone 8 p.m. UK time. We ran into a few technical issues, many technical issues, but the show must go on. You know, when you happen to be a woman in tech, you should be used to these things, but you can never, ever get used to technical issues. So apologies for those of you that were waiting, those of you that sign in, that dial in, that click on the link, that join at 7 p.m. UK time or 2 p.m. Eastern US. Apologies. These things happen. The most important thing is that we are here now. And don't we have a show for you today? Oh my days, a fantastic show for you today. And I'll just share quickly why I do this. A cup of tea with Dr. Z, spotlighting everyday women just like you and me all over the world doing extraordinary things. You'll be thinking, what's extraordinary? Extraordinary is when you step outside your comfort zone to do something that many other people may not do, or many other people may find weird. And weird is not the right word. Many people might say, oh my days, how did she do that? And it could be something like driving. It could be something like maybe you've taken the driving test 15 times and you're now, let's say, 75 and you've finally passed your driving test. Now, for those of you like me that like driving and you've been driving for years, that might not be extraordinary. But for a woman who has taken her test 15 times, 16, 17, 18, 20 times, and finally passed, that is an extraordinary feat. Some of you might remember in the UK years ago, I think it was probably in the 90s or early 2000s, there was actually a program on TV called Driving School. And there was such a lady, as I've described, called Maureen. Maureen took her test loads and 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 loads of times. And finally, I think in probably series 3, so these series probably have about maybe 8 episodes, if I can remember from memory. I think it was by series 3 that she finally passed. And that is an extraordinary thing. An extraordinary thing could be, there's a lovely woman I follow on TikTok and Instagram who started her exercise regime when she was 70. Now she's a weightlifter, bodybuilder. And I'm thinking, well, that's inspiring. Maybe I need to follow her, follow her footsteps. But what I'm saying really is being an extraordinary woman or being an everyday woman doing extraordinary things, it's you, it's me. Something that other people will say, wow, or even you will say, wow, to yourself, and you pat yourself on the back. It's about making sure that your story is heard. It's about making sure that you are highlighted, you are spotlighted, but also making sure that other people who maybe perhaps feel that they don't have anything to share, when they hear these stories, they get motivated and encouraged and stretched to do something too. So it's a passion project of mine, and I absolutely love it. I get to speak to people all over the world from the comfort of my studio, and yeah, I'm loving it. Anyway, enough about that. My next guest is another special, extraordinary, everyday woman. And she is really, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about her. Her name is Wendy Amexo. I actually love her surname. And I'll read a little bit about her. She's made significant strides empowering women and girls through a dedicated focus on mentorship, coaching, and advocacy. She's also a data analytics expert at a leading global FMCG firm or company, and some of you might be asking, what's that? When she comes on, you can ask what that means. She's also the founder of an amazing tech company. And in the green room, I was asking her, what's going wrong? Why is this not working the way it should be working? And we were doing all sorts of pulling out wires and doing fixing, you might notice that I'm disappearing because my green screen that I normally have is not on, just so that we can use as minimal bandwidth as much as possible so that we can stream this live to you today. But I pulled, I'm like, Wendy, you need to sort this out. I'm a woman in tech. You're a woman in tech. How many people does it take to fix this issue with Restream? We spoke to Restream in customer services and stuff like this, but we're here now. Anyway, I'm going off on a tangent. Now, Wendy's commitment to supporting women and girls is so evident in her extensive work, STEM work in schools and organizations. She's all over YouTube. You see her where she goes into secondary schools, especially A-level students, women, girls, speaking to them, encouraging them, mentoring them to go into STEM courses. She does engaging talks and workshops, and she inspires particularly not just young women, but older women as well. She helps them, emerging leaders, to pursue the careers in tech, helping them to navigate the path to their dream roles. Her mentorship also extends to women in corporate settings, and I know that from a personal experience, providing guidance on career advancement and strategic elevation. She draws from her personal experience of overcoming loss, family pressures, and workplace challenges. Wendy offers coaching approach that is both empathetic and holistic and practical. Her efforts are aimed at not only addressing professional hurdles, but also fostering personal growth. As a speaker at events like the International School of Geneva Centenary celebrations and AI on the Road, as well as the UKCSW 68 delegate, which I happen to be one too, Wendy continues to champion women's leadership and advancement on a larger scale. There's so much I could tell you about Wendy, but I think rather than tell you, let's do like what they do in primary school. For those of you that have children in primary school or did have children in primary school, or you were in primary school at one time, you remember show and tell. So we're about to do a show and tell. So give me a few seconds. I'm going to bring this amazing woman out of the green room. I can see her laughing and thinking, oh my days, what have I set her up for? The phenomenal, the incredible Wendy Amexo. Thank you so much, Wendy. Thank you.
So good to be here. Wow. Thank you for that introduction, Dr. Zee.
Thank you so much for coming. I know we had a few technical issues, and I it's like literally if we were in the same room, we would have been under the chair, under the table, pulling wires all over the place, but we were pulling virtual wires. But we're here now. Right, so Wendy, thank you so much. Really incredibly grateful. You are such an amazing woman, and the reason why I say show and tell is so that they can see who this extraordinary woman, this everyday woman who does extraordinary things around the world. So first and foremost, I know that you have a background in law. I know that, but having said that, you are now a woman in tech. And not just any woman in tech, a specialized woman in tech with regards to data analytics. Now, today we're talking about data-driven leadership and innovation, and how women around the world can use data, to actually know how they can actually move ahead. So rather than just using your head or your emotions, I feel like doing it, looking at, empirical data that will really help people to know, is this working or is this not working? And so my first question to you would be, in your opinion, did you really know, yes, it is in your opinion, did you wake up one day, did you know, let's say 10, 15 years ago, that you would be a data analytics expert?
10, 15 years ago, where was I? No, I think about 15 years ago, I was obsessed with video games. And coming from a background that was African, the expectation was that, I would go on to study medicine and become a doctor. But I think, being data driven, a part of it is about your experiences and what you experience. And that's what ultimately happened to me. So I studied law, and then my first job outside of the part-time jobs I did at university was in a law firm. So I worked as a paralegal, and I was working on this disputes and litigation case. So I saw a lot of information coming through from different parties, and my experience was, okay, this is a lot, right? I'm someone who at that time, numbers is the way I communicate. If you ask me, how is this case going, I couldn't tell you without looking at the figures. Um, and so, looking back, it's not something that I imagined that I would be doing now, to be honest. And I can say that a lot has changed over the past 10, 15 years, with new technologies coming through, and obviously the way in which society functions, and, where these benefits of technologies lie. So, yeah, I couldn't have imagined back then doing what I'm doing now.
You're right. Technology really has changed a lot, and this just leads to my next question. Is obviously it's in the title. How would you say, from your experience and the work that you do, that data-driven analytics really helps to empower women with innovative ideas and solutions?
Yeah, I think it comes down to, what are you experiencing? And, for me, it all happens through recognizing patterns. I'm someone who recognizes patterns. And at that time, not being someone who was too technical, I noticed that there was a need for a solution that did not yet exist. So when we're talking from a data perspective, the data for the need of that solution existed. How? It was either through, your workload. Is your workload too much? And it's recognizing those indicators, those signals that you get as you experience things. So when it comes to leadership, if you are someone who's leading a team and you notice, your team isn't feeling too motivated, or you feel like your team's working too slow, then look back at, what data can tell you how your team's performing and why. And I think it comes down to asking the right questions. And those questions will lead you to the data that you need, data that either exists already or data that you need to find out for yourself. And so when it comes to innovative leadership as well, is being able to identify the needs before they even become needs, right? It's anticipating what that need of your team is, what that need of your organization is, and ultimately, I guess scoping the competition, scoping the industry as well. What data can you get from there to help you, whether you're leading a team, whether you're building products, or even just professionally, if you want to elevate yourself. So I think the key themes that I'm drawing here are experiences, asking the right questions, and letting those questions lead you to the data.
Yes. Thank you so much. I hope I'll just quick shout. Hello, Valerie. Thank you for tuning in. Hello, Hannah. Thank you for tuning in. I call Hannah my blind spot queen. She will laugh at this. Hello, Breppo, all the way from Ghana. Hello, Addy. I'm seeing. Thank you so much for tuning in. And for those of you that are tuning in on YouTube or on LinkedIn, wherever you are around the world, thank you for tuning in. And those that are going to tune in on the replay or when it gets uploaded onto Spotify and Apple Music. When you were talking there, Wendy, you talked about recognizing patterns, recognizing structures, recognizing trends. And, when people talk about, data driven, people get, oh, it's so confusing. But basically, like you rightly said, it's recognizing things that are the same or not the same. So say, for instance, let's a good example. Maybe you've got a friend of yours, and every time you go out, you plan to go out, you go on holiday together. I'm just making this up. You go on holiday together. So if anyone's listening, I'm not talking about any of you, trust me. Because I'm like, Dr. Z, why did you no, I'm not talking about anyone. So you go on holiday together, and we go and have a meal or something. I've left my purse at home. Okay, so it's the first time I pay. We go to somewhere else. Oh, I forgot my purse. I've left my purse at home. Fourth time, fifth time, you've left your purse at home. You've left it in the room. Now there's a trend. There's a pattern. So it's just about and this is a funny example. If you have that kind of friend, obviously you need to cut the person off, or you need to ask, if you have money problems, let me know, be honest, and then I know what to expect. Then I won't be expecting you to pay. But recognizing patterns can be as basic as that. It could be, oh, my clothes are getting a bit tight, and this is actually real, so I can't believe I'm saying this. Before Christmas, when I was supposed to have lost the weight and put the weight on after Christmas. But anyway, notice that my clothes are getting a bit tight. Though that's a trend. It's not, I feel it, I can see it. I can notice a pattern, or perhaps I'm walking and I'm breathing funny. Or so these are, it's patterns are in everything, and this is data that you can use. So rather than saying, oh, I feel that this might be, you do a finger in the air, or like, say at work, you do it on the back of a packet and just estimate. No, you're looking at figures, you're looking at patterns, you're looking at trends, and you're, plotting it to see, and you're scoping, like you said, scoping out the competition. Yeah. I like that. And I hope this has been helpful. Some of you might be laughing, thinking, why am I using body shapes? I'm not body shaming anyone, only myself. But hello, Charlene, as well. Lovely to see you. So it's really important to use that data appropriately. And for us as women, every time you look at stats, they say, 2% of women are in leadership roles, 5% of this, and 2% of this, and 15% of this. And now in a few days' time, we're going to have 16 days of activism with regards to domestic violence or with regards to violence against women. And we know that 1 in 4, or we were talking about mental health, 1 in 4. So this is all based on data, research, survey, statistical, analytical data. So you look at the patterns and you analyze. And, coming to the next question, when you look at the data, how would you, let's say, for instance, of a good example, we work together when we do the Power of 3 in 30. And, we speak to amazing women, all over the world, leaders in their own right. And we're already noticing trends. So, and when you notice trends, you ensure that you meet those trends. So if you go shopping, you go to a shop. Hello, Mrs. Larty. You go shopping, you go to Tesco, and Tesco will be watching you. They'll put something by the door because they notice that particular thing is not being sold. People don't buy it. So they put it by the door. You're planning to go and buy some milk, and they put it by the door. So you end up touching it, and then before you know it, you buy it. So they notice that there's a trend. If they put that particular product by the door, people will buy it. That's based on looking at trends. That's based on scoping. That's based on giving the customer what they need, or sometimes what they don't even know they need. So sometimes you can use data-driven, to give customers, clients, people what they need. You watch an advert in the cinema and you're not thirsty. All of a sudden they bring a massive bottle of Coke with ice and lemons and everything, and you get really thirsty. So it's subliminal messaging. Or like the example we heard the other day, I went to a cultural intelligence, amazing Jennifer Isakov, lovely, fantastic cultural above difference. If you want to do anything about cultural intelligence, you need to go to Above Difference. Fantastic. And gave an example of how they wanted to figure out how people behaved. So they got, a group of 19-year-olds in university, and they said that we'll give you alcohol, to see how, how soon does it take you to get leery. And so every young person in uni was like, oh yeah, it's free of charge. And so they went, and they kept on pouring. They poured the first lot, second they were getting leery, fourth, fifth, and all that. And they used that data to analyze. And what it was is that there was no alcohol. It was a placebo. But they've been able to say, okay, if they tell you that this is alcohol, you will behave in a particular way. So these are all, things. So my question to you, Wendy, is looking ahead, I want to talk a little bit about, Tech Jumpstart Hub, because I absolutely love that. Love it to bits. And I want to ask you, how do you expect, plan for it to expand, so that it really amplifies its impact on young girls and women around the world?
Yeah, great question. So for a bit of context, I am the founder of the Tech Jumpstart Hub, and we are a community interest company where our mission is to empower young women and young people and women to thrive in tech. And so our main vision is to establish hubs within the UK. So we're currently based in the Northeast in Newcastle. So the vision is that we have spaces, physical spaces, where women can come in for workshops. They can see an advisor about employability. And essentially, what we're trying to do is break down technology into extremely simple steps and make it practicable, right? I'm someone, when I first started, data science, I was so excited about the code, and I would speak to non-techie people about how fantastic the code was, but they didn't care, right? They were like, so what? And so this is what we're trying to address with technology. The pace at which it's moving is so fast, and if we don't act to try and bridge that digital gap, it's just going to amplify unemployment, and just the gap in the knowledge that we're going to have in society is going to be too wide. And so our aim is to bring it to the lay person, whether it's your mom, your grandma, your sister, young people who are looking for employment. Because ultimately, the way we're going with technology is that people need to be empowered to use that technology. It's
Yeah.
not that technology is going to take over their jobs, but it's going to help them perform their jobs. And so as we move into this new economy that AI is going to bring, I want to make sure that our people, our young people and women in the community are also coming along in the journey. And so we're hoping to establish our first physical space in Newcastle and then sort of branch around within the UK. But we're so excited for this journey. It is definitely new territory for me as a founder and someone who's quite visionary to actually walk the talk. It's been an interesting journey, but with the more people I speak to in the community, the more need that we have for this kind of service.
What I absolutely love about this is that what you're saying really is that no woman needs to be left behind.
Exactly.
No woman needs to be left behind. I remember years and years ago when everyone started using PCs. There were still quite a few people that were still using typewriters, and they were just frightened, absolutely terrified. Now, tech has moved along so swiftly. I still remember when they had DOS. I used to code as well. I don't code anymore. And there was DOS and C++ and all that. And then we had floppy disks, before your time and stuff like that. I still have a few floppy disks in the garage, and my children, 26 and 23, they're like, what's this? And so things have moved so fast, but it's really important for people like yourself to really be at the front, to drive, not just to drive change, but to drive empowerment. We keep abandon, using this word women empowerment. And women empowerment to me is not just about, oh, you can do this. It's really about, like I said earlier on, show and tell. This is how you can, this is what empowers you. If you are able to dispel fear, suspicion, oh, AI is taking my job, for instance, and you can go and learn a course. I was speaking to someone the other day, and she just off her own back decided to go on a course, and she got, certified in artificial intelligence. So now she knows how to use it. Yeah. And this is someone who, she's retraining. So you can start, it doesn't matter how old or how inexperienced or very experienced you may be in another field. Technology should not be something that makes you feel that you're secluded or excluded, because it can be quite debilitating if people are talking about things and you don't know, what it means. Some people can just about use a PC. People are still learning how to use Excel and Word and all that. But with people like yourself, actually going to the grassroots to say, look, you can do this. We can break it down. We can make it as simple or as difficult as possible, depending on what your level is. And not just for you to learn, but for you to teach somebody else. Because wonderful thing, I went to a funeral the other day, and this lady, a very good friend of mine, she's been on the show, and she'll probably hear this on the replay. Her mum, she lost her mum, but her mum was 86 and she was still studying.
Wow.
She was still studying. She was a woman in tech, still studying. And her grandchildren were like saying, Nana, why are you studying? She said, oh, no, I need to go to the library. And then she'll do her coursework and they'll give her 86% and she'll be angry.
Wow.
So you're never too old to learn something new. You're never too old. So I'm really, I really love that you're doing this. I love it for you, but I also love it for the people that you're serving. It's such an amazing, I could talk about this, all evening, all evening, talking about personal coaching, because I know you coach, I know you mentor. I've seen you in action, so I know you're, damn good, even if I say so myself. But pardon the word damn, but you also bring a holistic approach. And I want to ask why have you done that?
Yeah, I guess it all draws from personal experience as well. Being brought up in an African household, it was like doctor, lawyer, you get your job, and that was it. And so that was the mindset that I sort of grew up in. Okay, I've got this job. That is my focus, right? But then I experienced, some changes. We all did with, COVID and lockdown, and that was one of the moments that made me reevaluate what I wanted in life. And the way I was going, I was just focused on myself, my advancement, earning a high salary. And I felt like something was missing. And the
Yes.
more I discovered what I wanted for myself, not just professionally, and the more that I spoke to my mentees, the more I thought, is everyone living like this? Just living to work, not, working
Yes.
to live.
Yes.
And one of the questions I asked one of my mentees that sort of shook her whole world was, what do you want out of this for yourself? Right? So you elevate your career. Now what?
Now
Do you
what?
want to travel? Do you want to help others? How's your health? How's your mental health? How are your relationships? And so I reevaluated all pillars of my life, looking at finances, looking at relationships, looking at my faith, looking at, basically just a whole rounded point of view, right? Because you elevate in one area, that needs to translate in all the different areas.
Yes.
And so that's the approach that I bring, because the best version of you is the version that takes you to the next level.
Yes.
And you cannot elevate your career and be in a sick bed, or have poor relationships, or your finances are poor, yet you keep elevating. Does that make sense? Not really. And so I want to make sure that the women that I coach and mentor are the best versions of themselves, that as they elevate in their careers, everything else elevates with them and for them.
I like that, because you're right. You, as professionals, especially, you might be listening to this right now, or maybe you're watching on the replay, or you're watching the replay, and perhaps you're really doing incredibly well at work, but there's an emptiness. Because like you rightly said, are you working are you living to work, or are you working to live?
Yeah.
And but your professional person, there's also your private person, your personal person, if I can use it that way. And we need to be completely rounded, not just in our career. Oh, I've really succeeded. I'm a doctor, I'm a lawyer, I'm an engineer, I'm a hairdresser, I'm a cleaner, whatever it is that you do. You that's and this is why it really breaks my heart when you speak to women. You say, who are you? That either use labels based on their career, or labels based on their marital status or their parenting status. So I'm so and so's mom, or or I'm a teacher, or I'm so and so's wife. But who are you? When we peel the onion, who are you? And all these, career is fantastic. It's fantastic to succeed in your career, whatever that might be, whether you're in business, whether you're in a 9 to 5. It's fantastic to succeed, but you need to also be successful as a person. What are your blind spots? What are things that you can do differently? What are you learning about yourself? Do you take yourself out on dates? Do you travel by yourself? Some people are so petrified to actually spend time with themselves, and they don't know themselves. So if you ask some people, who are you? They would say, I'm a project manager. No, no, no. Who are you? Oh, I'm Jade's mother. No, who are you? Oh, I'm a leader in church. No, who are you? Oh, I'm Peter's wife. Who are you? So it's really important that when we train, when we coach, when we mentor, that you're right, we bring the whole body experience, so that it's like a bit like, if you're a Christian, we're talking about the fivefold ministry, so it's the fivefold version of you: your career, your mental health, your physical health, your finances, you as a person. And it's really, you're absolutely correct. Absolutely correct. I could also talk about that until until, we go down in the ground. Now, you empower with girls in STEM. I know you've been involved in initiatives like GTA Black Women in Tech, Transition to Tech series, and things like that. What steps do you believe, Wendy, are crucial to really help these young girls believe that they can do it?
I think we need to be honest, especially in this age of social media, where you see a lot of the tech influencers showing their day in the life. I think that's great, that's important, but we also need to share the real stories, right? So if you got spoken over at a meeting, how did that make you feel? Basically, just bringing raw, honest truth about working in the industry to these girls, but also sharing, the highs and the lows. And, for someone like me, don't tell anyone, but I once failed a statistics course. And as a data scientist, you wouldn't believe that. But that happened, right? I had to resit it. And being honest about this, who knows? A young girl might be listening and thinking, she's really failing at maths, but she really loves technology. And just
Mhm.
hearing that story might be something that pushes her to try her best and to get the best outcome. But I also think it's important for us working in tech. You don't have to get that shiny title for you to tell people that you work in tech. So if you're
Yes.
a BA, if you're a business analyst, if you're a project manager, share what you're doing in technology, because we have this preconceived notion sometimes that people working in technology are the people in the dark rooms writing all the code, but there's so many careers
Anoraks.
involved. Yeah. Yeah, there's so many careers involved. So it's, I guess, showing us as our authentic selves and sharing more of our stories. And I know I'm someone who used to be shy with social media, but I try to share more now. And, the more that I share, the more that I hear from people that, my story inspired them, or something I said lit
Yeah,
a fire in them,
yeah,
then, that's great. I think we need to do more of that.
yes, yes. You're absolutely correct. The general impression is obviously tech is very male dominated, so we know that. But then the general impression is that you're a coder. In most organizations, the tech department is actually at the bottom, is somewhere in the basement. First line support, second line support, maybe the CIO and the project managers and BAs and data, and maybe you guys might be on the first or second floor, and you feel a little bit more superior. But tech is tech. It doesn't, and it's so wide. It's so wide. Not everything is going to be so, mathematically. You could just be from the management end, or from the product, managing products, from an agile or scrum end. There's so many. It's so wide. But the most important thing to understand is that being a woman in tech, everyone can be a woman in tech if you want to be. If you're on social media, the other day I was playing about with CapCut, and it was taking me forever, and I'm doing videos and I share them. That is when you learn that you're learning technology. You might not think it, but you're learning technology. And sometimes you go on TikTok or something and you see transitions and all sorts of things. That's technology. There are people that are building apps. That's technology. It is so incredibly wide. I want to talk quickly about your languages, because that really blew me away. You knew I was going to ask you about that. Really blew me away. Wendy speaks so many languages. I can just about speak English. Today is a Friday night, and I can just about speak, string one sentence or two sentences together. But I know you speak Korean, and I
Yeah.
know you speak some other amazing languages, and so you really are, an everyday woman doing extraordinary things. And I just realized I didn't offer you a cup of tea. Do you want a cup of tea?
Dr. Zena, I'm almost running empty.
Right. Okay. I'm so sorry. Right. Good. Yeah, fantastic. Fantastic. Don't know where my manners are. I'm so busy pulling wires and everything, trying to get this to work. I forgot my manners. And all of you watching, please, I hope you have your own cups of teas or coffees or water or wine. I won't tell anyone. Whatever it is, whatever your beverage is, and you're sitting comfortable. If you're here in the UK, if you're somewhere else, I hope you're sitting comfortable. If you're working, please don't get caught. Wear your earphones, whatever. But anyway, so yes, tell me about your languages. You speak so many.
Gosh, yes. I think we need a different session to do an introduction to my brain, but
Absolutely. I will bring you back. Trust me.
um, I've been like obsessed with Korean stuff since I was 15. One of my closest friends at the time is from Korea. And so I got interested in the music and the food and the drama.
Oh,
And
K-pop,
something
K-pop,
happened.
K-pop,
K-pop, yeah,
K-pop.
BTS,
Yeah,
yes, all of
yeah,
that.
yeah.
So over almost 15 years, something happened. The more that I watched, the more that I picked up. So I was like a sponge. And then over the lockdown, I decided to invest in a teacher. So within, a month or two, I was able to read and write, which was amazing. Again, this goes back to pattern recognition. So I learned Korean, and I thought, oh, I want to try something more challenging. So I thought, let's go with Japanese, right? And because they come from the
As you
same
do.
sort of
It's still
family,
Japanese. As you do.
Because they have similarities even in the way they count numbers and dates. It was quite easy to make that transition. And then I thought, oh, let's go harder with a bit of Mandarin, and then started learning that. But I couldn't dedicate that much time, so I dropped all of them except for Korean. But again, it goes to pattern recognition. What's the minimum you can learn to jump to this other language? And, learning your set of common words to use, whether it's greetings, telling the time, dates, counting. Those are the essentials. But I absolutely love languages. I could be watching a movie in one language, let's say Mandarin, and then I'm picking up these different phrases. The other day, I was watching a series on Netflix, and a Mandarin phrase popped up in my head. I was like, oh, I used to say this. What does this mean? And so sometimes it's so challenging. I was in Spain earlier this year, and I couldn't really switch on my Spanish side of the brain. Instead, French was coming out. And so when you make that many connections, things don't work quite well. But that at least, if you travel with me, you won't get lost. If we go to Spain,
I don't
France,
need a dictionary.
or Korea. Yeah, I've got you.
This is so fun. I hope for those of you that are listening, it's about when we talk about going out of your comfort zone. This is a fantastic example. Just try it. Put your put your toe in the water. And if your toe, you put all 5 toes, put your 2 feet. If you can't swim, someone will catch you. Please go to a swimming pool where where there is someone to catch you. Or what I'm saying, you have a good support network. I'm using swimming as an example. You have a good support network. So when you feel like giving up, someone's pushing you. My oldest daughter is learning Igbo, which is a Nigerian language. She can't speak. I can speak, but I can't teach anyone, and I can't really speak that well. I think in English. So she thought, "Ooh, I need to know this." And when we went earlier on this year to bury my mom, she said, "No, I need to understand all the jokes. I need to, so like you, she just invested in a teacher, and I'm hearing them. I'm like, oh, I need to, use this teacher as well. What am I saying? Do something that you've never done before. Being extraordinary is just pushing yourself the extra mile. It doesn't mean that you have to use a lot of money, for instance. It doesn't mean that you have to tell people what you're doing, because you're doing it for yourself. When I saw that she could speak I'll have to share this, she's going to laugh. When I first saw that she could speak all these languages, this was a while ago, I asked her, do you have Korean blood? Remember when I asked her? And she laughed in my face, said, no, Dr. Zee. I'm like, are you sure? Because I'm thinking, I don't know anyone that speaks Korean so fluently as she does, and speaks Japanese and speaks all this. She goes, no. I'm like, all right, I thought I'll ask. So what am I saying? When you, apart from it being a fantastic flex, and you're not doing it for it to be a flex, but when you do something that you haven't ever done before, it gives you a fantastic sense of fulfillment. And I'm sure many of you know Maslow's theory and, hierarchy of needs and all that. We all want to feel valued, but we also want to value ourselves. It could be an exam, it could be driving, it could be walking, it could be a new language, it could be learning to cook. I know over COVID, so many people learned how to do nails. So many people learned how to do nails. I mean, what I did, I didn't learn how to do nails, but I invested in a drill. So I now have, a drill for my nails and my toes. So I rarely go and do my toes. I do them myself. So COVID, although there's lots of negatives that happen, there are lots of positives for all of us. So let's think about things that we can, let's see if people can really. Oh, look, someone's saying, wow, Wendy, you're a linguist. So I want all of you who are watching this or watch on the replay, make a commitment to yourself, something that you've never done before, something that will actually frighten you to do. This is not, for those of you that maybe you're my clients or so, I'm not things that I've asked you to do. This is something that you've asked yourself to do. It could take you 1 year, 2 years, 5 years. It doesn't matter. For some of you, it might be building a house. I know that there's a couple I follow on Instagram, and they invested, a young couple, in building their first home, not buying but building, and how they did that, and all the horror stories that they had. But when you get to the finish line, you're like, I did it, and I did it all by myself. Whew. Now I want to ask you a few more questions, because today we started later, so I guess I'm tired, you're tired. Well, I just want to make sure that people get something out of this, and I know they are. So I just want to ask, you've mastered loads of languages. I know you like videos. I know you like photography. I know you like STEM. I know you like people. I know you love smiling. I know you're very proactive. I'm not going to ask you, like an interview. So can you tell me your weaknesses? No, I'm not going to ask you that. I want to ask you, oh, excuse me. I want to ask you, have you ever experienced burnout, and what did you recognize the patterns, and what do you do to avoid it if you have recognized it? Because I'm sure people will find that helpful as well.
Yeah, I've experienced burnout, but not as often as I did in the past. And again, going back to COVID, that was like a signal for so many things. I remember waking up really early, and I would log in to work at 7, right? And I would have the news in the background. And so whilst trying to work, I'm listening to all the doomy stories. Um, and on top of that, I was learning languages and trying to do all these things and trying to grapple with the reality of the pandemic at that time. And I did that continuously to the point where, I kid you not, I was beginning to lose my hair. Firstly, because I wasn't getting enough sunlight. I would
Yeah.
basically be at my laptop from morning until the sun came down, to the extent that I didn't even recognize that it was dark and that I was sitting in the dark working. Um, and so, having noticed those, physical changes, um, now what I do is I try to take as many breaks as I can. And where I notice that, I'm sort of retreating, because that's something I do when I'm quite tired and exhausted. I just don't want to speak to anyone. I actually make the effort to, firstly, take a walk, go outside, make sure I'm stocked up on my vitamins, make sure that I am in contact with my friends and family, and I'm going out, making that intention to go out. So, if you're someone who plans on payday, like I do, things that you want to do for the month, I try to have at least like a meal out with my friends and, plan in advance. But also, what I think is quite important is, as someone who is a high performer, being able to communicate with your team, being
Yeah.
able to communicate with your friends or your family. Because if you can't notice those trends or those disturbances to a healthy baseline, they could. And
Yeah.
so I think it's important to keep that line of communication open with, your colleagues, your managers, but also with your friends and family. And so the way I deal with it is to, plan ahead those activities that I do, and communicate, and also notice that I don't have to do everything,
Yeah.
right? And there's the 80 for 20 rule, right? 20% of what you can do can achieve 80% of the result. It's just up to you to identify what that is and work according to that.
Yeah.
And so that's what I try to do. Sometimes it's not entirely possible, but it's knowing that you're human.
Yes.
Mistakes can happen, but
Yeah.
just understand that rest is essential and
Yes.
rest is okay, right?
Yes.
It's important to recharge and to keep moving and not completely stop, which is what we don't want.
Yes. 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 And not stop permanently, which is what
Yeah.
not. Yeah. I really like how you've put that. And I just want to add, because I'm a bit like you, where things have to be in a particular, sort of way. I'll just do a quick confession for those of you that were listening. I was just annoyed that nothing was working the way it needed to. Oh, this is not. And Wendy was saying, Dr. Z, it's fine. I'm like, no, but it needs to do this. It needs, because that's the kind of person that you are. I am. But it's always important to have the right people around you that can tell you it's fine. Breathe. So even though I tell people to breathe and all that, sometimes we don't breathe. So it's, like you said, if you can't recognize your blind spots or recognize when you are struggling, your support network will, especially when you tell them, please, if you notice this particular pattern, I tend to do this, I tend to do that. If you notice this, please, make me rest, pin me down on the bed and chain me down, whatever it is, And so I like that. And another thing I just wanted to add to that is progress is much better than perfection. And it took me almost most of my life to realize that. And I'm still struggling now in terms of, I like things to be, but really sometimes you're so busy trying to make that thing perfect that you end up doing nothing. And the people that you work with or the people that depend on you, they don't know that. All they will see is it's a no-show or you haven't delivered. So I don't know who this is for. Progress, not perfection. Progress, not perfection. Progress, not perfect. Sometimes, and Wendy, when you were saying this, I've done that lots of times when you're working, and it's dark. So you've got your ring light on, you're working happily. You just want to finish that thing, that last thing, so that you don't carry over. And we will, but progress, not perfection. Now I want to give last 3 tips that you want people to take away, and how can they reach you?
Oh, tips. Tip number 1, no matter what stage you are, you need a level of accountability, but also with a mix of motivation. So wherever you are, you need someone to guide you, whether that's a mentor or coach. And that has certainly been something that I've learned, at least for the past year, invested in many coaches that have brought me this far. And I know this is just the beginning. And without them, I wouldn't be where I am currently. The second tip is that you need to have vision. And sometimes the path to that vision is ugly because everything's contrary to that vision.
Yeah.
You just need to keep going.
Yeah.
And, thinking back to the time where I was crying over my tech homework, had I stopped there, I wouldn't be where I am now. And where I am now is nothing compared to where I could be. And so really focus on that vision. Be someone who's visionary, even if everyone tells you no, even if everything's contrary to that, you just have to keep going according to that vision. And the third thing I want to take away is that, you do have value. And oftentimes you feel like you're not where your peers are or where your friends whom you went to school are. But I want you to know that you have your own space to add value, right? And certainly this is what happens in entrepreneurship and business as I'm learning. There's nothing new under the sun, right? It's the value that you bring, whether it's from a people angle or a technology angle, regulatory angle, you have something of value to bring, right? And I'm learning that, and that's something that I want you to understand and be able to live as well, to say, wow, I really did contribute to that. And so these are the 3 things that I want you to take away.
Thank you so much. You've heard it from her, this exceptional, special guest, an exceptional, extraordinary woman who is doing exceptional, extraordinary things around the world. She's told you, be accountable, have a vision, and be steadfast about your vision. No one else needs to understand it as long as you understand it. Defend your vision. That's all part of that vision. And then number 3, remember that you've got value. You've got something of value to offer. It might not be what someone else is offering, but you have something of value. So figure out, what is that one thing that you love to do? What is that bent that you have? And that is your values. For people like me, it's being an encourager, being a speaker, always wanting to push people forward. I've always been like that, even when I didn't know what that was. For some of you, it might be numbers. For some of you, it might be that you're very analytical. For some of you, whatever it is, for some of you, it might be that you're good with your hands. Being good with your hands doesn't mean that you're less than someone that is good with numbers. Like, for instance, I'm not good with my hands. I can't sew. I mean, I have, if I have a hole, I have to sew it grudgingly. But my mother was so good at sewing and doing, she was really good with her hands. And she was mortified that I couldn't sew. I just didn't have the interest. So everyone, we all have our bent. So those 3 things that Wendy told you: be accountable, have vision, and know that you've got value, and deliver that value that you have. Thank you so much, Wendy. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. We made it. Thank you so much. How can people reach you? They can find you on LinkedIn.
Yeah, so I'm on LinkedIn. That's where I'm most active, but I'm also on Instagram. So it's Wendy_Amexo. And yeah, just reach out if anything, and I'll get back to you.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, everyone. For those of you that are watching this live, thank you for watching. Thank you for tuning in. But you tune in week after week. This is episode 29. Can you imagine? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26. And I'm not good with numbers. 27, 28, 29. This is the 29th episode. And every single one except one has been live. So, I'm really proud of myself. So I'm patting myself on, but I'm patting all my guests, all my special guests, from the one from Marie, that was number 1. I know you all by name. Thank you so much. And all of you that have been watching, for those of you that know me on WhatsApp, have been sending me messages. Where are you? Are you not doing this? Thank you so much. For those of you who are sending me messages on LinkedIn, thank you. And sorry for those of you that can't watch this on Facebook. I still haven't been able to get it back. Still trying to get Facebook back. But please follow us on YouTube, on Instagram, on LinkedIn. You'll be able to watch this. Thank you so much. Have a fantastic Friday wherever you are around the world. And with that, I'll say good night.
Thanks for listening to A Cup of Tea with Dr. Z, your reinvention queen. We hope you've been motivated and inspired to go out there and conquer any obstacles and issues you may face. You can find Dr. Zena on all social platforms.